So back then, 2006, I was a young fire support officer, Captain Ortega, coming on a transfer from uh, 1st Battalion, 37th Field Artillery, where I was performing the duties of planner and battle captain. And so back in December, they said, "Hey, um, time's up. We're gonna do a mid-deployment type of um, replacement activity, so we can have the 520th FSO doing taking a command on one of the firing batteries." And I was like, okay, I can do that. So which battalion am I going? I'd say, well, you're going to task for the regulars, and it's a pretty good mission down in Baghdad. Those guys are a QRF kind of unit to MNCB, and they were pretty doing a pretty good mission. They didn't own any battle space or anything. All they did was responding to areas that had some level of insurgency or some mission critically problems that require a little bit of an enhancement on the ground in the form of additional firepower, clearance operations, raids, going after high value targets, that kind of thing. Um, Very different, I was coming in and I was like, hey, the fire support person that I'm replacing is a very well known, very well trained, very high performing individual, and so now I had to come in as a new guy and replace this guy and do a good job while I'm at it, right? And this was like 2006, December time frame. For fire support officer, it was a very chaotic environment. We were doing many things that were in fire support. There was a big nuance on the titling, doing
Mhm.
what we used to talk about effects based operations.
Yes,
uh,
effects.
it, and the majority of what our FSO was doing in Baghdad was uh, non-kinetic effects, right? The
Mhm.
messaging, the IO, the psyops, the loudspeakers, the
So
um,
more of the psyops or other
yeah,
stuff. So
yeah,
quick question
all
on that.
all
How
that
many
stuff. And it was good. It was good, and so I was getting my groove. I was getting my groove. I was getting to know my FSE, my fifth team elements, my companies, trying to build some rapport with my commander, command side major as part of the attack.
yeah.
And all of a sudden, late February time frame, the rumors start coming. Hey, there's some activity on MND North and Bakuba. They need some help over there. They have a CAV unit, and they need a little bit more combat power, and they're meeting resistance. And okay, they're meeting resistance. Is it what kind of resistance are we talking about?
Mm.
and the reports start coming very high up on number of personnel that we were posting up there, number of casualties that the CAF was taking, right, and the number of vehicles that were disabled was insane. And I was like, man, is this real? Right? Like it didn't hit on me yet. Like I have been in Mosul, I have been in Baghdad. I'm a second time deployment officer, fairly seasoned. I've been on the show. I know what it's all about. Never seen those numbers, right? And
Yeah.
I get myself ready. I tell my FSE like, hey, this thing seems to be a little different. My guys were like, I'm hesitating, and I couldn't enforce it anymore because was hesitating myself. Like I was,
Yeah.
like, is this a real deal, or are we all over preparing like we always do, and then we do a great mission, right? And we handle the business, and it's yeah, and then we go and go for the next thing, right? So got ready for a jump, did the jump. I think, and and I apologize for the dates. The dates
Yeah.
are quite blurry on my mind at this point in my life.
Oh yeah, no
Um,
worries about exact dates. No one is
yeah,
going to be like, "Oh no, Rick got that wrong by a couple of days." So
yeah,
please, just flow,
well,
go with
I
the
know,
flow.
yeah, we got some people that really do dig into what we did, and it was special, and rightfully so.
Mhm.
But
Yes.
I isolated myself a little bit, right?
Mhm.
Um, and we deployed about uh, up there. We did the jump. I
Mhm.
believe it was about mid March,
Yep, that
maybe
sounds
the
about right.
12th March or something like that. We drove north, got there to Warhorse, um, did a little bit of a link up with the unit, and said we're just gonna go out and and do what we do. And it was intense. And so that next day we took some losses, right? We already started losing some personnel. I remember having a young soldier KIA down in one of the neighborhoods, and we were pinned down there for several hours trying to recover the elements and recover the body and the remains and some of the vehicle stuff, and it was massive firing, and that was that's where it became serious, and it was my first time seeing it like that, where I knew that this wasn't just about the non-lethal effects, and it was going to be a different type of fight. And so how how do I raise the bar without precedence to
Mhm.
fit in with my unit, my brand new unit, doing a brand new special mission, fitting with my guys, earning the trust of the commander, and putting some pain on the enemy just as bad as they're putting on us. And so that was the beginning of me. That was the definitive point for me early on that deployment. It was very much a onslaught in that area.
Yeah. So just to clarify for those that may not understand some of the terminology, so would you agree that you went from the non-kinetic, I know this was probably from your first deployment, hearts and minds, messaging, IO campaigns, to now you come to Bakuba where now you're doing fire missions, you're doing uh, you know, all you're doing more of the traditional fires officer role.
So yeah, Mike, thank you for that, because there's a big difference, right? The Striker Brigade Combat Team, which is the enabling force that is helping the 3-1 CAF and Warhorse at the moment, had a very unique startup a few
Mm-hmm.
years back, right? So back in 2001, we were up in Fort Lewis standing up this brand new brigade, uh, huge influx from Second Rangers, right? So at Fort Lewis, and getting a massive amount of Second Battalion NCOs that were populating all our infantry battalions. 123rd Infantry Tomahawks, 520 regulars, 2-3 the works, right?
Mm-hmm.
My fifth battalion was 123 Tomahawks,
Mm-hmm.
and I am telling you that as a second lieutenant, I had never seen so much talent in one company alone. Fast forward from that, 2 years of intensive training, we deployed for the first time to Mosul, Iraq,
Mm-hmm.
and that was a legit deployment. I don't want to take anything away from it. There was a ton of great leaders, Tomahawks, regulars, Red Lions. They all did fantastic work.
Mm-hmm.
Um, those are the three battalions that I mainly rotated throughout my time at Fort Lewis, and 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 it was a good mission, but it was killing focus at times. There was a lot of kinetic action. If I have a very good friend of mine, his name is Joe Trotmont. He was one of my early FSOs, and he wrote a book recently about his experience with the Tomahawks, and it's a very good account of what went on that deployment, and it shows the amount of activity that those guys were encountering. In my humble experience, once we redeployed, a lot of people, good Americans that did their time, got out, left the army. It wasn't for them, or for some it was enough, or for some others they did their service and it was time to move on. For the second deployment, the guys that were retained, we we knew what we were into, and so in my mind it was a different level of commitment and discipline. You know what you were going against, and you needed to reset your training and apply lessons learned and figure it out how you were going to go after this thing and go after and try to rectify all the cases where you face adversity and you believe that you could have done the difference, right? And so the second deployment was much more steep in terms of talent within the brigade, a lot more combat experience for all of the battalions, including the CAV, 82nd, the 101st, all those great units that cycle through time and time again. So even with that second deployment, and even with the short 60-day span that I did on Baghdad with regulars,
Mm-hmm.
the battlefield was a lot more lenient. It was pockets of resistance. Um, our guys were very well trained, so they were easy in and easy out. Our casualties were we had casualties there were lesser casualties. Not to say that 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 those guys that did the ultimate sacrifice didn't matter. We lost some
Mm-hmm.
guys throughout all the years, and I down on it every day of my life. But the mission itself was more lenient. Once we got up there, it was a real fight every day, every night, throughout. And so I knew that I needed to as an individual to elevate my game for many reasons. Number one, I'm the new guy in the battalion, and I need to figure it out. How do these guys work? How are we gonna react in this environment? How do we can win, and how can we minimize our losses, but not by hiding out, just going out there and fighting the good old fight. And
Mm-hmm.
my battle rhythm was brutal. It was what it was. I wouldn't change anything. I'll start going out with the battalion commander. My commander was Bruce Antonio, 520 commander, and my command sergeant major was Jeff Hoggins, right? And Hoggins those two were a stellar command team.
Mm-hmm.
So I I started listening a lot. I talk a lot less than I'm talking right now. In those months, I was just listening, taking it all in. What is that the command sergeant major, is advising the commander, and what is the commander deciding to do in order to execute this mission, and what can I do to enable him to do as best as he can do. And so sometimes it was the non-lethal effects. Yeah, we were doing non-lethal stuff, but it was trying to apply firepower. And our story there in Bakua was about firepower. And how did I do that? The first day that Bruce, Colonel Antonio, told me, I asked him, "Hey, so what can I do for you for these missions?" And he said, "Well, I need I need air support. I need rotary wing, and I need CAS. And I said, like, how much? And he said, well, I
Hmm.
need it. I need coverage 24 hours, 24 hours a day. And I was like, holy smokes, that's steep. Well,
Hmm.
what can I do? I cannot send an email. I don't even remember if email was a thing back then. I think the computers had a network and you could drop some things and send some notes, but how, I need to go over there and do like interpersonal communication with some of the 3.1 command structure and figure it out. How can I also get on the good side so they can help us out, right? So I'll come back from mission at whatever time it was. Sometimes it would be in daylight or nighttime or morning time, whatever. And the first thing that I'll do is check up with my shop, the three shop, and said, "You guys are planning another mission in 24 hours, 48 hours? Or are we planning one right now? I need to run to a brigade, right?" So I wasn't going to sleep. I wasn't trying to do a leisure run or going to get chow or none of that. I'll walk my happy behind off to the headquarters and I go to the brigade fire support element and I said, here's what my commander is asking me. We need coverage 24/7 pretty much. What can we do? And those guys are too on cabs. They're like, where are you coming from? I'm like, oh, I'm Task Force Regulars, 520 Infantry. We came over here to help out. Oh, hey, somebody hook this man and try to help him out as much as possible. They're coming over here to help us. They're part of the team. And they said, yep, you got direct support. We don't have assets to give you rotary wing all day, every day, but here's something we could do. We can we can overlap rotary wing with CAS. And in the areas that we don't have either CAS or rotary wing, we can put a hot battery, a hot gun. If we don't have a hot gun or the gun goes down, we could lay on targets on MLRS tracks that are sitting further north. Um, we can, and I was like, cool. And then I also have organic mortars. We have some sniper teams. We have stuff like that. So we could come up with some kind of observation plan, perhaps, and provide coverage as much as possible, thinking about the big picture and the entire Bakuba, right? Easier said than done, but there you go. We started cranking, and so I started doing that routinely, and
Hmm.
uh, I get on my brief. And before the missions, we used to do this combine our rehearsals and stuff. We'll tell the commander, hey, coverage, I have 12 hours worth of casting, I have 12 hours worth of rotoring, and I have mortars, and I have snipers, and I have this and that. And he started saying, really, you got all that? Yeah, I did. Trying to fight, right? And so we put those guys on the fire support net. Uh, we used to run a fire support net simultaneously, so we don't get on the business of the command net. And started getting very popular. People started to talk a little bit and interested and whatnot. And I go quiet time. I observe the mission. I get on the fight. There's some targets here and there, but not many yet. This is early. And I asked the commander, like, hey, what can we do to get this in the fight? What do you need? I said, like, we just need to get this rotary wing and give it to the commanders.
Okay.
I said, fair enough. So rotary wing guys, put it on the command net. So, all those Wolfpack guys, they used to just come in the fire support net, um, check in, and then they'll get passed over to a battle captain, and they get into the command net, and they're talking straight to the people on the front lines. They're doing all these things, and they're starting to put ammo on bad guys, which is what we wanted. Um, and it was a radical shift. Once those people started seeing the impact of those, they started using them very routinely, and I leave it as routinely. I don't even want to little, make a statement that exaggerates thing, we will fire them black, and they will
Mhm.
have to go back to Warhorse. I mean, not to Warhorse. They were coming from another place out farther down, black, and then we will have a lapse with the other team coming on because they weren't ready to come yet. They had a routine or whatever, and so that opened another kind of whoop for me because I had to then like, all right, so I need to like bring some pass early to fill the gap or whatever else or whatever. They were shooting them. The problem with rotary wing for us at the moment is that that rotary wing was fantastic when you had troops in contact, and it was great when you had uh, uh, some space between buildings and stuff like that. But once you got into suspected targetry and you had to do pre-planned fires, it wasn't as easy to lay in just attack aviation because the angle of fire will have some impacts on adjacent structures. And so it wasn't the right fit for all targets. And so we needed to come up with other ways to engage targets that was more surgical so we could satisfy CDE requirements. Not, not only we are in the toughest fight that we ever faced before, we also had to follow the rules, right? And
Oh
we
yeah.
we had lawyers and things, and I routinely also go check out, put target packets and talk to the lawyers about what can we make a target off, what can we not make a target off, and that sort of thing. So we we initiated the integration of artillery utilization. Back then, we have a very unique and new round, Excalibur round. So we we were given like 5 rounds each of that, and we were saving them, but they got used, and so they were very neat and precise. And we did some operations using them that were textbook in my mind. One round to punch a hole in the roof, and the second round to go through the hole, so it could go inside the building and destroy the enemy. That was pretty classic, right? And so that happened in at least one occasion where we have a
Mhm.
um, BEA and confirmed kills using that kind of technique on an enemy position. So that was great. Um, Lots of confidence from that, right? It got to the point that I was doing my walk to 3-1 calf every couple of days, whenever I could come back to to Warhorse. And from being the guy that nobody knew, that what is this guy even doing here, people are starting to say, great job. I can't believe what you guys did. How'd you do it? Giving you a high five. Very humbly, and by no means I'm trying to say that I was like this giant or anything like that. I was just trying to do whatever Ric Ortega can do to help. Um, I the feeling that I got, it was like a rock star. Like everybody was embracing the help that we were bringing, right? And not only the 3-1 calf guys, not Bone Crusher, not um, ACO guys or the mid teams or anyone. It was our own 520 guys that didn't know me from before. So I learned very good. Like I'm making an impact, and the feedback is that people are starting to recognize the value of what we're doing here as a team. Not only Rick, but the FSC, the fires guy, the community. Um, and it was very unique. It got to the point that the battalion commander didn't even ask me a lot of questions about the targets, how I was implementing the targets, what kind of um, asset I was assigning to the targets, whether it was MLRS or artillery or rotary wing or else. He was approved, and he'll continue to do the job what he was doing. And so I, like any other good guy, I got very comfortable, right? And I was just briefing back like, hey, time of shut over, time of flight, 1 minute and 55 seconds, splash, target destroy. We got visuals, or guys are going in for BDO. This is what we figured out we killed in terms of enemy. Um, I'm telling you that when it was all said and done, and I'll go into some other details and some very unique things that I thought that I don't know if people remember, but they're very important in my mind.
Yeah.
Um, uh, um, you know, JDAMs, we fire guided MLRS rounds, dozens of them, Excalibur rounds, smoke, illumination, HE, uh, HE variable time, which is unheard of, mortars of any size, 60, 81, 120, um, Hellfire missiles, gun runs using A-10s, um, gun runs using attack aviation, uh, pre-planned targets of opportunity, um, right on the front line targets. Like we dropped some ammunition that it was literally a couple hundred yards away from us on the front lines. It was very radical. Probably the most exciting time of my life in terms of the adrenaline that you get when you are in the heat of combat. But it was the time of my life that I was the most angry, right? Like
Mhm.
almost every day, it sounded like we were losing guys and that we were losing guys in front of us. And so we'll go back to the call on occasion, and then we had those flyaways. I don't know exactly what the name was. Five
Yeah.
o
Are you talking about the hero flights?
hero flights. That's right, hero
Yeah.
flights, and we'll go. And it almost felt like every other day we were doing that, and sometimes for multiple guys, and so it just brought the level of anger up. I
Yeah.
didn't remember feeling afraid. In my mind, I was locked in the game. Yeah, to me, it was a game. I was there to fight, and I was gonna win that fight with my guys. And I was locked in, and I didn't care. I thought about it. Maybe today is my day, and then I said like, so what? It might be that it might be and it might not be. It doesn't matter. I'll just continue to fight. So it never happened. Never happened. We got some close calls, but hitting RODs or small fires and stuff like that. But it wasn't. To me, it was more about the anger into the fight and just bringing the energy into the fight that got me there through those months. Um, no lethal effects. I didn't forget them. I had I got him there. Sparring my walk down to 3-1 cat. I was talking to the IO and the psyops and all that stuff. And I told my F3 back during Jackson Chance. He was a tough customer. We got along very well. And we're good friends. But I used to be like, hey, so some guys are telling me that we could probably do a leaflet drop and probably work some of the effects on the battlefield. I don't know what that will do, but we can drop some papers and figure it out. So we did a leaflet drop. He claimed that hey, it cannot be done. I'm like, well, there's a process to get it approved. I'm gonna try, and so I tried, and the thing happened. General Benerick was MMV North person, right? And he approved the thing. And that night we did a leaflet drop, and the mission went off like in the very early morning, and I was there with the TAC, and I was walking the battlefield, going to a company commander, battalion commander, Colonel Turner was very good about going to all of his company commanders a few hours after a mission and trying to get face-to-face sit reps and trying to help them assess the situation. At the same time, I will go and talk to the snipers or to my FOs or to my FSOs that were there and give them information and
Mhm.
even water. I'll be bringing cigarettes. I will whatever it is that I can give them. Batteries. I used to carry my radios and stuff like that. Spare batteries, ammunition, grenades, whatever. And if needed to be handed over, I hand it over, and they appreciate it. You know, some of those boys were thirsty out there. There was no water. It was getting into the summertime, and it was rough. And it was like a heavy duty PT second to get up there. Like going, doing Spider-Mans over walls and running corners, doing all that kind of crazy stuff. It was the real deal, especially with all that weight. So we went there. I didn't see a single leaflet anywhere. I was like, "Where's all this paper? What's going on?" And so we did the second one, and there was no impact. I didn't even see a paper. But what was obvious is that the enemy wasn't there. So uh, Mike, Colonel Turner was like, "Hey, Rick, I think the enemy's getting tipped off with this thing, so they know that you're dropping leaflets and they they're leaving." I'm like, what if we drop the leaflets somewhere else?
Yeah. I mean,
I,
everybody's heard the stories from World War II, but now
yeah.
hearing that even in Ukraine they're using inflatable HIMARS to let the Russians think they killed a HIMARS. So yeah.
So we grabbed one of them and we put it on one of the neighborhoods that we didn't get into yet, right? Like in Torreon, west side of the river, and we
Mhm.
did a leaflet drop there. I don't know what happens. The paper is there somewhere, and then we went to New Bakuba and in the north east, and we did a raid there. And I swear to God, that was all kinds of people caught that night. I
Yeah.
was like, so it worked. So it was a deception plan. It might have not been all, and I cannot prove it. Uh, it could have been that if we wouldn't have no leaflet drop, we we could have gotten there and we got everybody. But in my mind, it, maybe we try, and by a little bit it might have helped, and it probably did help, and it was
Yeah.
great.
Yeah,
Um,
but going what I'm hearing from you overall though is using integration of basically any tactic, but integration of all this fires, non-lethal effects to create effects that is helping your battalion, enabling your commander, and enabling these resources to get down to your company level as fast as possible, which has resulted in the enemy being affected. So
it,
yeah,
it
that's
did.
great. And
It did, and so we were we were fired up. We were doing great. We have my targeting NCO was in charge of non-lethal effects. Simon Wilson, great guy, very level-headed, doing all the stuff there. Him and I clicked in early on, and he was I was voicing all my concerns about what I just give me some feedback on what some of the things I'm doing well, some of the things are not doing well. And he was a great human being. I lost contact with him for a few years, but he he was awesome. And then I had Sarah Olson, was a very strong, awesome NCO. One of those guys that they come in service and they become assigned first class in 6 7 years. One of those fast trackers.
Mhm.
Um, he has strong opinions about the transition. Him and the prior FSO got along very well. Captain D. Armand back then, Colonel D. Armand today, still serving in the army, a formidable officer. He was amazing, and so rightfully so, Simon Olson and him were team. And so there comes this crazy guy trying things, doing whatever, right? And so we had a good conversation, and I was like telling Olson, I just don't want to change everything, but we're in a different fight. I'm probably in the fight of our lives, and I'm going out there exposing everything every single day. And all I need is a little bit of help from the team. And from that day on, that's all he took. He just needed to know, help help me help you, kind of sort of like a Jerry Maguire thing,
Hmm.
and it was great. And I have never I had some great NCLs in my career. I lived in the service for 23 years and I retired as a colonel. I I have never. He was one of my strongest NCOs. He he was also going through. We were losing people. People from our team were also uh, f- fast casualties during that fight. One of our FOs, Simon Higgins, was a very close NCO siren also, and that was a big blow to him. And rightfully so. Those guys were like family,
Yeah.
and he cherished that loss forever. And so, but he was a maintenance NCO, so he was in charge of all the kinetic stuff.
Hmm.
Here with Sam Coleman, Special Sita, we have a few young guys that were combat tested. They knew what to do and they did it. They did it well. They gave their commander the best themselves that they could give them every day for all those days. It didn't matter. There was no hesitation. And so we just continued doing that thing. Continued doing it. It got to the point that um, we even tried doing air assault missions. We air assaulted to south of Buritz one night, and we did a entire task force virtual mission, including people from 114 CAF, 31 CAF, Bone Crusher, and Apache. Is it Apache 112, or is it
Yep. Yeah, it's
Apache?
Apache.
Yeah, Apache 112, and we have Delta Company for 82nd, and a couple other companies joining us. So the task force was now like 7 companies altogether, to include our own headquarters. And so we went there, air assaulted, ended up being a little bit of a dry hold that mission. But the fact that we were able to put that together as a battalion, it showed the commitment. Um, but we were sealing the objectives very well, and you could tell that there was an exfiltration thing by the enemy. They use the Pound Grove very effectively. They'll use the river very effectively. Do you know all this? And so we needed more. We needed more. So they called and they were calling for assistance, and it was getting late on May time frame, or it was early May already, and the battalion commander was already arguing to us like, hey, we need a little bit more help if we wanted to secure the left side of the city, Tahrir, and all these other neighborhoods that are untouched at the moment. We were focused on New Bakuba and Buritz at the moment, and that's what we could handle with what we had. And so it got to this event on May 6th. We got, unfortunately, we had an IED in place there on near Bakuba, or to the north of Buritz, right? And we teamed up with one of the teams from Alpha Company 520th, a tech company, and we sort of did like a small envelopment on that road, and we got out of the vehicle because there was no ID in place, or he was already gone. So we dropped ramp and went to check some of the shops, like any other good um, infantryman on my role now, right? I'm getting down in these patrols, and I'm not acting like a prima donna FSO, just walking the neighborhood and under the protection of other guys. I'm putting security myself and keeping that distance from the battalion commander, command sergeant major, and following my sector. I'm operating this three-dimensional urban terrain, like upwards on these buildings, left and right, all of it, emulating what any other good infantryman will do in these situations. And we still got lit up on that shop. So the interpreter, the battalion commander, myself and some others were on the periphery, and the banging on the floor was really intense, and and I felt like a little bite on my leg, and I jumped backwards and got into the shop, and I could feel all these potato chips.
Right.
Because I hit a rack of potato chips on this rock, and it was everywhere. But I got up and I started putting my security on the sector. I didn't see much there. And then the medic, Jeff Finero was the medic, and got right behind me and said like, "Hey, you know, hey sir, you had, I don't know, I had something on my leg, on my butt cheek, and I don't, so I had like a big old bruise already, and kind of like a knot in there. So it seemed like a ricochet rock or something hit me there from the concrete. And then the battalion commander got nick on his ankle. He was bleeding a little bit, and not much. I was like, well, now I have a bruise. So I'm gonna be limping off, and got back on striker, and we're about to drive, and on the other side, that squad that was sitting there, they got ID from under, and it was awful. It's that striker got lifted up into the air. I didn't see it because I live under the turret, but Command Sergeant Major Huggins was saying, "Wow, that thing was as high as a telephone pole.
Wow.
Airborne, right?" And unfortunately, he killed everyone but the driver in that vehicle. One of our it was essentially our entire squad, and Dimitri, who was a battlefield media guy that was embedded with them,
Hmm.
and Dimitri was um, a Russian descent correspondent. It was a very young guy, very eager to get into the front lines, and I was like arguing about it the day before, and he wanted to go, and he got in there, but it wasn't. It was he went quick. And so that was a bad day, a horrible day. There was a lot of emotions on that battlefield. There was a very grotesque scene, a recovery scene, and it was a lot of kinetic action. A lot of the fire we were taking from a mosque, and that mosque fell within the rules of engagement because they were fighting from it, and we put every single thing that we could find on that mosque. We were really angry, and we did a measure attack, but it was very strongly done. Um, to this day, I don't remember much about that. I Something happened to me. I don't remember seeing bodies. I don't remember seeing the blood. I don't remember. Uh, I remember a whole bunch of soldiers that were crying because they lost their friends. I remember San First Class Lopez. He had a whole bunch of smoke that we were, and he had a hard time catching up his breath. He was a very square away attacking COIC. Very very good guy. He told me, Rick, this is the worst day of my life. But I didn't know what to say. I was young, and I never dealt with that volume of emotion all at once. Like we just literally limp our way from the other corner of the street to deal with this entire carnage of a platoon basically losing a um, complete squad at one blow from one enemy guy that probably I don't know. Um, so anyways, I like to believe that that incident put the request of Colonel Antonia on high priority, and so from there, very soon after. And I don't remember the dates for Arrowhead Ripper, but Colonel
Arrowhead
Tells,
Ripper.
yeah, Colonel Townsend, who we all know retired as a four-star general, the most beloved. I mean, in my book, the most beloved commander that 3rd Brigade second ID uh, ever had. I mean, that guy was a rock star of his own. He came out with Tomahawks, 123 Infantry, and our friends from down south, and we put together a party down in Tarrir, and that was the culmination of that battle. We actually took it to them. So 123 from the north, and then 520th from the south. We just took that neighborhood um, in a couple days. I mean, I put with attack company 520th. I remember that morning I had priority for MLRS, and I put 13 in excess of 13 MLRS rounds onto rear. If you as a fire support officer don't realize that it doesn't get any more real than that, I I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to tell you, but it was brutal, and I had no issues with putting another round. I will call him in, and I will. It didn't matter if it was my son first class leading it or it was a specialist set I call in the fire mission. I was confident that those guys will put the round exactly where I want it, and the commander believed at that point that I was going to put the round where I needed to put it. And so it was very lethal. It was very important, and the feedback that I got from the infantry guys were like, "It's awesome." Back in Fort Lewis years before, you tell the infantry guy like, "Hey, we're gonna put some fires." They're like, "Oh man, you're just gonna ruin my mojo. I just want to
Mhm.
go and get in and do it." Now, all these years later, it was like put the round first, kill them. I'd much rather go right behind and count the dead bodies and finish up whatever needs to be finished off. And and don't get me wrong, those guys weren't afraid of doing it. Those guys were brave, and those guys did a whole bunch of killing. But if we could help them out,
Yeah.
why
And
not?
that speaks highly of you and your team because that is showing the full integration of fires, infantry, and reduction of the target. So yeah, that speaks highly of the team that you helped build to that point.
It was a sight to be seen. To me, it was the highlight of my career as a fire support officer. I was in multiple units for many years. I even deployed with Third Special Forces Group under Colonel Anderson, and seven ended up a deployment in Sort of Alpha with Seventh Group Colonel Riga. Those are highly trained elite units, and they have the level of satisfaction. Now, this stuff that we did down in Bakuba, that was special. That was special. And I don't know if it was because of the personal impact of I needed to hustle to fit in as a new guy in the unit. I needed to hustle to fight a fight that I haven't fought yet because I'm the corn guy, and also I'm the kinetic guy with these new guys. I'm also seeing my guys, everybody's guys, right? Like Bomb Crusher and and Echo and all of that, losing people left and right every day. So that I don't know. I call it anger. I don't know what that feeling is. That wanted to go and give it back to them, right back to them, was there and made it so much intense. Uh, it was important, and it was a highlight to me. And so I didn't get a lot of feedback from the battalion commander. Battalion commander was very quiet man. Um, he was very good though. I learned a lot from him that he taught me for later years in the military, and now in my professional career, I still applying the lessons. Like Bruce did not just hastily, even under the most pressure, make a hasty call or one that it was coming from his feelings.
Hmm.
He always made an informed command decision on that battlefield. I was witness of that. I it is special. It is very hard for an individual to don't show that emotion and don't make that emotional decision. He did a professional, conscious, deliberate decision every day that I was out there with him. And that kudos to a man for that. And Sam Major Hodgins, he was he, he, he couldn't be a better leader there with Colonel Antonio on that one because this Sergeant Major was a soldier. All these NCOs uh, revere him like he was. They listened to him, they followed him, they were inspired by him, all of that stuff. All at the same time, this man is not resting, giving the
Yeah,
best possible advice to his boss, right? So it's an epitome of a command sergeant major. If I ever seen one, he's above and beyond the best one I ever seen. For sure. To this day, he's still involved on the 520th. I've seen the pictures on social media with Danny Barrett, who's one of our comms guys, one of our tech members who's done phenomenal work outside of the military after his retirement. So you know, it, it's it was unfair to that somehow that team came together for that fight. It was it was a thing of um the people who were there were fortunate of being there. As bad as that sounds, because of the quality of the team that was there.
because I would go out on a limb, and I'm going to speak from my personal perspective, and you let me know if you agree or if you could do this. You can normally count. So you did 20 plus years. I did 20 plus years. You can normally count on one hand how many good command teams you had. Maybe you get to two hands, but you normally go so many years of okay, mediocre, or bad, and then when you get those great command teams at the right time, it's amazing feeling, and it's something you carry with you throughout your entire career.
It was unbelievable. They were elite. They were conventional force, but elite, and they did great. I wasn't ever the guy that believed it was the greatest FSO or anything like that. Blah blah blah. I only did the best job that Ric Ortega could do on a given situation. That was my forte. My superpower was to grind. I could grind it. I'm the
Oh yeah,
guy. I'm the guy that I'm not the fastest, but I don't fall out of runs. I am. I don't. I'm not the strongest, but I don't don't slow down on my lift. Right. I continue to carry, and I'm not the best fighter, but I'll continue to fight.
yeah,
And
and
so that was my superpower, and so it paid off. In my mind, it wasn't good enough, but on everybody's eyes, it was perfect. And I got my so I got my feedback after I came back to Fort Lewis a long time later, and I sat with Colonel Antonio in his office, and he was like, "Hey, Rick, you know, I haven't told you this, but I'm gonna tell you now. Blah blah blah. Remember, um, uh, Captain Diarmond from your predecessor and stuff like that." And he was like, Yeah, yeah, yeah. And he was like, he was a high quality guy, right? You recognize that? It was like, yeah, I know, he was a stud. I wish that I could be half of the guy that he was. All right, well, you're not lesser than he is. I saw no difference.
Mm.
I carry that a lot. I said, like, you know what? I'm nitpicking myself and trying to bring it up here to compete with these giants on this battlefield. Um, but at the end of the day, I was just another guy walking among giants. It was they saw the grind and they appreciated the courage to go over there every other day and fight a good old fight. And and for Command Sergeant Major Harvest, I knew on the deployment when I was part of the team. I went to Fort Warhorse one day after mission, and I was all dirty. I was out there for I don't know how many days with the rest of the people, and we sleep some whatever houses available, whatever near the front lines, and do stuff. And we're dirty, we stink, and it's summer. We
Mm.
came back to the chow hall and stuff like that, and you know, you had, we used to sling our weapons on the back. I don't know if was on the back or on the front, but I don't know. I had a sling on the back. I remember my sling was covering my rank, and so I got online and I got this sergeant major was just got online and just started shooting my butt and saying like, how do you come to, to a child looking like that? You're all dirty. Your hands are dirty. Your uniform. Which unit are you from? And blah blah blah. And my eyes were like sunk in because I was tired and I didn't eat
Mm.
in a while and stuff like that. I'm like, man, I'm just taking a butt chewing here, and I I got no dignity anymore. I'm all about fighting guys outside. I don't care if you say if I dirty or not dirty. I'm not gonna even question that. So I was like, in my mind, I was like, what's happening here? But the sergeant major Hodgins saw it happening, and he just came out of nowhere. And he just started laying in on that other sergeant major, and that's where I knew that I was one of the boys. Right? You don't mess with one of his boys. So even though I was a captain, I was one of his men, and I'm proud of that because it wasn't easy to fit in with that unit. It was an elite unit. You come in as a outsider, it will take a long time for you to fit in with such a high caliber group of individuals. It was very very much a testament about how much can you take and how much can you give in that situation. And so I'm happy about that. I made my peace with it, and it's did great. Then I went over to the rest of my career in the military, and I always did good, and I always thought back like this was nothing like Bakuba. Yeah.
Mm.
This doesn't even sound challenging anymore. So
Yeah.
so I that was in my mind the peak of my career. Not even my family understands it. I I haven't been able to articulate it to many people until today, and that I just um, ran into first time Coletta a while back because I dropped out of social media and stuff like that for many years. I was fighting my own demons and you know once I came back, that's where I was like, what? Jed Trotman wrote a book. He's an author now. He's my guy. Yeah, he did. Oh, wow. And first time Coletta's doing this. He wrote his book, and now he's doing the project. That's very good. I like to help, and so I started connecting. Oh, Danny Barrett doing
Mm.
his own thing, and I was like, wow, these guys are our guys, and so even though Little Rick is no longer an FSO, maybe I can learn something from them still. this many years later, and continue to help the future generation of warriors that are gonna probably encounter something similar at some point in their lives and figure out how to fight the hardest fight that can be put in front of them. And I
Yeah.
believe that's what we did.
Yeah, and you definitely highlighted that, and all that is very true about helping the future warriors. But if you also think about it from the other side, all these projects that are going on, it's about getting people from our fight to talk, to share our stories, and to heal from sharing. Just like you just said, your family has never really, been able to understand. And now through the Debrief project, through this interview we're doing right now, plus with the other interviews we're doing, and then the documentary, we're putting together all these, putting together the big story and shining that light on why so many of us may have had those years of fighting, as you said, fighting the demons or pulling away. And it's because
It
there
took
was just so much that we did.
it took a long time for me. It was awful. I came back. I came back a few weeks early from that deployment because I have a death in the family,
Mm.
and so it must have been August time frame when they shipped me back. And it was an emergency leave situation, so you know how it is. They ship you out the same day with the uniform you're wearing, stuff like that. And I looked like a rag. My boots were broken, my ACUs were ripped. Everything was a mess. I wasn't, I wasn't weighing 165 pounds, and I'm a 200 pounder now. I was like 160 or something like that. I was just a very small guy compared with that. And I went to the airport um, after I took my return flight, and I was sitting somewhere on the East Coast, and a lady a lady asked me on the line. I was trying to score a transfer ticket because they give you a ticket to go here, but then you have to wait like 10 hours or something to go on the
Yeah.
connecting flight. And she said, a lady, I was in the line trying to get her, and said there was another customer online, and she asked me, "Hey, thank you for your service." And I was like, "Oh, thank you so very much. I appreciate it." And she was like, "How are you doing?" And I was like, "I'm doing well." No, no, no. How are you doing? And that
Mm.
that was that was the first time that it dawned on me. And I told her like, I am exhausted.
Yeah.
I don't think that I can go another day. I struggle with the ability to make rational decisions after that deployment. I couldn't. I was, I'm an expert problem solver, and I couldn't solve problems. I couldn't get my brain to think and apply enough cognitive effort to problem solve because I was depleted
Yeah.
and overwhelmed with an emotion and what I call, and this is a thing that I came up with, but it kind of describes how I feel. I was for so long. And I said it to you a couple of times. I was locked in. I was
Yeah.
hyper focused. I was hyper focused every day. And all of a sudden, I come home and I couldn't get out of my hyper focus thing. I couldn't unlock myself from that way of being. And
Yeah.
so for 3 or 4 years, I couldn't do it, and it cost me my family. It cost me
Mm.
my family. It cost me um, my mental health.
Yeah.
Uh, and so it wasn't until several years later, I think right after my final deployment, because I went to a couple more deployments, and then I deployed last time in 2014, 13 to 14. I mean, that's a long time to be deploying anyway. So from 2001 all the way to
Yeah.
2014, I mean, it's brutal, right? When I came back, that was the first time that I was like, I can't do no more,
Hmm.
and that's when I decided to go to some kind of mental health um, service to for them to talk to me or to me talk to them about
Yeah.
why was triggering all this stress and anxiety that I had.
Hmm.
And I didn't even think that it was a combat. To me, I was that's what I was born to do.
Yeah.
uh, uh, so I couldn't even put it together. So it took years from that point on, and I continued in the military until then. I didn't retire until 2018 is when I
Okay.
retired. Um, and then from 2018 and forward, then I have figured out how to live adequately. And
Yeah.
to live adequately means that I strive for a little bit of a balance,
Hmm.
and I say a little bit because that means I'm perfect or fix or figure it out.
Yeah.
Um, I I talk to guys that were in service with me. Now I'm back on social media and I share and I help them and I talk to them. Um, and it's become a thing where everything I do now it's well intentioned based
Hmm.
on the belief that I'm doing right by the men that I serve with. And so that's kind of like my new way of looking at it, right?
Yeah.
Um, that's that's how I heal myself. I think.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, there it's the continuing to serve the tribe, the connection, the people that we've experienced all these cumulative traumas with, and now being able to reconnect, being in a better space, you're able to just help others. And yeah, that exhaustion you're talking about, something I've kind of coined. It's just cumulative exhaustion. It's just every day of the grind, and like you were talking about, the casualties just in your battalion. But then when you zoom out, and it's not just your battalion. When you look at Warhorse, every day there was something and someone, and the hero flights, the gym being set up for memorials. It just that was, as you've mentioned a few times. I mean, that is
So
just the exhaustion of Warhorse.
so it still haunts me now. I was going through my boxes and I found this uh
Yeah.
journal from the brigade and it has all the casualties from that one year, and I think those 3 months from 520th alone, I don't think that the 41 CAF guys are listed in here. That was
Hmm.
only 22 KIA
Yeah.
just on 520th alone, and I'm talking less than 90 days.
Yeah.
Um,
And if I may say real quick, yes, 21 KIA. How many life changing wounded in action? Because that's another just a
so
number that just,
so
yeah.
the number of the bleeding wounds
Hmm.
is in excess of 40.
Yeah.
Um, but non-bleeding wounds, I would say that they're in the hundreds.
Yeah.
Uh, Hundreds. People
Yeah.
they all went for the same stuff. Just the other day, the FSNCO for 114 Bronco Troop 114 CAF was my first FSNCO. Staff Sergeant John Bland. He passed away 2 weeks ago. He got cancer. He's about my age, and he just passed away. It makes me up hearing about him
Mhm.
after these years. Right, Sign Troutman called me on social media and said, "Hey, Rick, John passed." And I was like, "Oh man, what happened?" And so he told me about it, and just to this day, this many years later, that brotherhood, that
Mhm.
significance of what you went through, whether it was fun or not, whether it was with a good leader or a not so good leader, but the situation brings everyone together. And there's nothing I would do um, in my life other than help out those guys and that I serve with.
Yeah.
They are family, right? And so it's just very painful. And I try to do the best I can and do right by by all things that I encounter on their memory.
Yeah.
That's all I can do.
Exactly. All we can do is be there and help each other out because it's how we got through those years, and that power is still there now.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, yeah, that's kind of my story.
Yeah.
I you know not a radio person, but maybe I did good enough.
No, no. I mean, it's the power of sharing. It's the authentic story. It's hearing, like, as you were talking about, your grind, your willingness to, I remember, you were just saying you were going to 3-1, but you were walking all around Warhorse because you would come to 112's headquarters, come talk to our fire section. I remember you making your rounds. So, but it's just that integration, getting the resources, getting them down to the company level, having the confidence of your battalion command team. So, I just appreciate you sharing your story and just, providing all the great details. And so the way we kind of wrap these things up is I just kind of turn the floor over to you. And how would you want to summarize Rick or summarize your time in Bakuba? And I just kind of turn the floor over to you and let you wrap this thing up.
Whew. So my time on Bakuba was the worst time of my life, but it was also the best time. It was the pinnacle of my military career for sure. Never served with a better man. My entire command team, um, uh, then Colonel Bruce Antonio, Master Major Hoggins, uh, Major Van Tres back then. All my friends over in the three shop, all those professionals that help us out, the FSC, the Warriors at 3-1 Cav, um, our head personnel that came to fight the good old fight. I mean, it was just such an extraordinary team. The only way that I would take it all back, it would be if I could bring back the the warriors that made the ultimate sacrifice. But even though I know that they're listening and they will say like, screw that. They they went down believing on that mission and on that team. And so we just need to honor them as the warriors and the heroes that they are, and then just realize that we will see each other once again once we go to Valhalla. And that's no other way to wrap it up because it was the highlight of my military career, for sure.